Most men chase money as hounds chase a scent, fast, desperate, and blind. They move with hunger, not foresight. But in their haste, they reveal their weakness and become prey for those who move slower, yet think deeper. This video will show you why speed belongs to the impulsive and wealth to the calculating. In every age, men have confused movement with mastery. They run toward fortune, believing swiftness ensures success. Yet those who understand power know, wealth is not seized by haste, but cultivated by cunning. The fox that hides learns more than the hound that sprints. To acquire money strategically is to treat it as a weapon, to build it, direct it, and conceal it until it serves your dominion. In this lesson, we will dissect the psychology of wealth, not as commerce, but as conquest, where patience becomes a blade and cunning the true currency of kings. Look around you. Everyone is running toward money, success, validation, as if the finish line promises immortality. But tell me, have you ever seen a man sprint his way to true power? The world has trained you to believe that speed equals achievement. Move fast, they say. Act now, or lose your chance. It is the oldest trick of control, not to chain the body, but to chain the mind through urgency. The system thrives on your haste. When you move too quickly, you do not think. And when you do not think, you are predictable. Predictability is the currency of those who rule you. In ancient courts, kings would never act in haste. They let others move first. They watched patterns unfold, desires exposed, alliances tested. Only when the game revealed itself did they strike, slow, deliberate, precise. The peasants called it hesitation. The wise called it calculation. Now, centuries later, nothing has changed. Only the battlefield has shifted, from thrones to markets, from swords to screens. The merchants of distraction, the architects of consumption, they whisper, time is running out. They know that fear of missing out turns men into obedient buyers. Consider the psychology behind this manipulation. Urgency activates the primitive brain, the part that fears loss more than it desires gain. When urgency is present, logic dies. You make decisions not from power, but from panic. And panic is the favorite tool of those who seek to drain you. Think of the stock trader who buys impulsively as prices rise, or the young entrepreneur who chases every opportunity, never building one solid foundation. They move fast, yet remain stuck, because speed creates the illusion of progress while concealing the absence of direction. Ask yourself, who profits from your haste? When you rush to consume, someone profits. When you rush to compete, someone observes. When you rush to decide, someone has already placed the board beneath your feet. The Machiavellian mind knows that time is a weapon, and most men wield it against themselves. They are slaves not because they lack strength, but because they lack stillness. He who cannot pause cannot plot, and he who cannot plot cannot rule. In the Renaissance courts of Florence, a true strategist could sit in silence for months, letting rivals exhaust themselves. Each rushed word, each impatient move exposed their weakness. When the dust settled, only the calm man remained standing. He had waited, not passively, but strategically. Waiting is not the absence of action, it is the refinement of it. But today's world despises patience. It glorifies movement, hustle, and grind. The language of slavery has simply been repainted in motivational tones. Don't stop. Keep moving. Go faster. The more you obey this command, the further you move from true wealth, because you are no longer acting from strategy, but from stimulation. Real wealth, real power, moves quietly. It does not chase, it attracts. It does not rush, it plans. Every empire, every dynasty, every lasting fortune was built by those who could resist the noise of urgency. Consider the Roman general Fabius Maximus, mocked for refusing to engage Hannibal directly in battle. They called him cowardly, slow, indecisive, yet while others rushed into defeat, Fabius waited. He let Hannibal's forces stretch thin, their confidence decay, their resources dry, and when the moment was right he struck, not fast, but flawlessly. That is how the slow conquer the swift. The same principle governs money. The quick spender is enslaved by the next temptation. The strategic investor becomes master of time. The poor man asks, how soon? The powerful man asks, how sure? So ask yourself, are you moving or are you being moved? Every day, the system engineers your attention through deadlines, discounts, and digital urgency. It keeps you reactive, not reflective. You are trained to sprint, not to see. And those who cannot see cannot scheme. Do not measure your life in movement. Measure it in control. The one who controls pace controls power. For when everyone else is running blindly toward gold, the patient strategist is already buying the mine. Slow is not weak, slow is sovereign. In stillness, you see patterns invisible to the frantic. In patience, you cultivate leverage. And in mastering the art of deliberate motion, you transcend the illusion of urgency itself. The crowd will call you cold, detached, ruthless. But remember, the wolf that waits in silence eats the hounds that bark too soon. You think you want money. But what you truly want is what money represents: power, freedom, control. Yet most men never realize this distinction. They chase the coin, not the command that comes with it. To the ordinary mind, money is a treasure. To the strategic mind, it is territory, a square on the chessboard of life. Each coin, each investment, each alliance. A move that either expands your reach or exposes your king. You see, the foolish man counts his coins. The wise man counts his influence. He knows that wealth without position is fragile, like a pawn standing alone in the open field. Valuable perhaps, but doomed at the first strike. Ask yourself, how do the truly powerful use money? Do they flaunt it? Do they chase it? No, they position it. They convert it into control, not by spending it, but by placing it where it bends others to their will. Consider the Medici of Florence. They began as merchants, but they became rulers, not through armies, but through loans. They financed kings, popes, and wars. Their wealth was invisible strings tied to visible crowns. And when kings moved their pieces, the Medicis were already several moves ahead. That is the chessboard mindset, to see money not as metal or paper, but as leverage, a silent command whispered through numbers. To own is nothing. To influence is everything. When you possess money, you hold a tool. When you position money, you build a weapon. A coin can buy bread, but placed wisely, it buys obedience. This is where most fail. They think of wealth emotionally. They want it to feel safe, admired, envied. But emotion is the enemy of position. Because once you need money to validate your worth, you've already surrendered your power to those who can grant or deny it. Power does not emerge from possession. It emerges from perspective. The man who sees the board, who anticipates how each financial decision reshapes the field, already wins before the game begins. Think of the kings of modern finance. They move billions without touching a coin. They make money appear where it did not exist. Through influence, through information, through timing. While the crowd trades hours for wages, they trade perception for power. That is the difference between working for money and moving it. The psychology behind this is ancient. Humans are territorial by nature. Money, to the primitive mind, feels like land, something to own, to defend. But the strategist transcends that instinct. He realizes that in a world ruled by illusion, ownership is not about what you hold, but about what you control. Control the flow, not the pile. The water in the river has no loyalty to the man who fills his cup, but it obeys the one who builds the dam. Be the dam. Shape direction, not collection. When you lend, when you invest, when you fund, you place yourself between others and their desires. And he who stands between a man and what he wants holds dominion over him. That is the true alchemy of wealth, to turn currency into command. Ask yourself, how often have you been played by this very principle? How often has a corporation offered you credit, not for your benefit, but to secure your obedience? They position their wealth to ensure your dependency. You buy their illusion of status, and in return, they buy your servitude. They think 10 moves ahead. You think one purchase at a time. That is how they win, not because they have more, but because they see more. Remember, every financial decision is a political one. Every transaction shifts power. Even your silence, your saving, your hesitation. Each is a move on the board. The question is not whether you will play, but whether you will play consciously. To see money as position is to become dangerous. It means you no longer seek approval because your wealth is not in view. It is hidden, layered, and leveraged. It means you can appear poor yet hold empires in your hand. You can lose possessions yet keep control. And in that control lies supremacy. The game is not about owning the board. It is about mastering movement upon it. While others obsess over the next paycheck, you must think of the next power position. Move slowly, place carefully, strike precisely. Because every coin misplaced is a piece surrendered. The fool spends. The merchant earns. The strategist positions. And when the board clears, only one truth remains. Wealth fades, but placement endures. Now ask yourself, if every coin is a move, what kind of player are you? Every man wants to appear powerful. But the truly powerful want something else, to appear ordinary. Because visibility invites envy, and envy invites destruction. Power once seen becomes vulnerable, and what is vulnerable can be undone. Understand this: the strength that is visible is already half lost. When others can trace the roots of your power, your money, your influence, your alliances, they begin to plot against them. But when your strength is hidden, your enemies fight ghosts. They strike shadows while you remain untouchable. This is the art of concealment, the silent fortress of the wise. It is not deception for its own sake, but protection by design. The fox does not hide because it fears, it hides because it hunts. Look through history. The most dangerous men were never the loudest. They did not parade their wealth or their reach. They cloaked it beneath simplicity, humility, even weakness. Take the example of the Roman Emperor Augustus. He ruled the most powerful empire in the world. Yet he called himself princeps, first among equals. He hid the reality of monarchy beneath the illusion of republic. The senators thought they still held power, but every decision they made served him. He reigned supreme because he concealed his supremacy. Contrast this with Caesar. He flaunted his ambition too openly, too proudly. He wore his crown before it was placed on his head, and for that, he was stabbed by those who feared his ascent. Power revealed becomes power revoked. In our age, the same principle reigns. The man who flaunts his wealth invites scrutiny. The one who posts every luxury online declares his insecurities to the world. His empire rests on fragile image, not structure. But the strategist hides his foundation. He moves quietly, accumulates silently, influences invisibly. By the time others realize his power, it's too late to oppose it. Ask yourself, do you reveal too much? Do you boast of your goals, your income, your plans? Every time you do, you weaken your leverage. Because revelation gives others the map to your vulnerabilities. The human mind is predictable. It fears what it cannot see. It envies what it understands. And it respects what it cannot measure. That is why mystique is more valuable than gold. It breeds both caution and curiosity. In psychological terms, concealment triggers uncertainty. Uncertainty breeds hesitation. And hesitation, in a game of power, is fatal for your opponents. When they cannot read your motives, they miscalculate. And miscalculation is the beginning of your victory. The masters of manipulation understand this well. They give just enough to be trusted, but never enough to be known. They speak in half-truths, act in half-light, and let perception do the rest. The less they reveal, the more others imagine. And imagination, when guided, is the most obedient servant of all. Even in business, this law reigns supreme. The companies that dominate markets do not boast of how they make their profits. They protect their processes like state secrets. Their strength lies not only in what they have built, but in what no one else can see. When you conceal your source of power, you also gain freedom. You are not tied to image or approval. You can shift, adapt, evolve, while others remain trapped by the roles they created for themselves. The man who hides his foundation can rebuild it endlessly, while the man who flaunts his fortress must die defending it. But concealment requires discipline. It demands silence in a world addicted to noise. It demands patience when others seek applause. It is not for the weak, because the weak crave validation. They want to be seen, even if it costs them their strength. The strong prefer to be doubted, because doubt is the perfect disguise. So remember this: let them underestimate you. Let them believe you are lesser, slower, harmless. The greatest trap is to appear powerless while holding every string. In war, the hidden army wins. In politics, the hidden agenda prevails. And in life, the hidden source of power endures longest. Let others display their crowns. You instead polish your dagger in the dark. Let them announce their victories. You instead prepare your next one in silence. Because power concealed is power preserved, and he who reveals his strength to the world writes his own downfall. Now consider this: if the world cannot see your power, could it still feel it? The answer to that lies in the next truth: how to control the speed of others and make their desires serve your design. Desire. It is the engine that drives men to move, faster than they should, and often straight into the traps you set. The true strategist never runs toward desire. He makes others run instead. For power is not gained by chasing what you want, but by making others chase what you create. Every kingdom, every empire, every corporation runs on this simple law: control desire, and you control motion. Desire determines speed. And when you command another man's speed, you command his fate. Ask yourself, how many of your choices are truly your own? Did you buy what you needed, or what someone made you believe you needed? Did you pursue love, power, wealth, or did someone quietly whisper that you must? Most men are not living, they are being moved. In the court of politics, the wise ruler does not demand loyalty, he creates desire for his favor. He withholds, delays, teases, until men chase him willingly. The people crave the attention of the one who gives it least. This is not cruelty, it is control. Look to history. During the Italian wars, the clever rulers of city-states would often withhold troops or gold from allies in distress. Not because they lacked resources, but because withholding created dependence. By delaying help, they made others need them more deeply. Every favor given too quickly loses its power. Every gift delayed becomes sacred. It is the same in every arena of life. A merchant who sells cheaply wins customers, but loses leverage. A merchant who makes others wait creates demand. Scarcity turns ordinary things into symbols of power. The wise understand this psychology. They feed desire slowly, precisely, until others become addicted to the chase itself. Desire, by nature, accelerates the impatient, reckless, blind. They forget to think, they only want. And that is where the strategist moves. Slowly, silently, directing their hunger like reins on a wild horse. Even in matters of the heart, the same law rules. He who desires too openly is owned. He who makes himself desired commands. Love, like power, belongs to the one who can delay gratification without losing control. To manipulate desire, you must first master your own. Think of it like a game of fire. Most men burn their hands reaching for the flame. The cunning man builds the hearth. He decides when the fire burns and for whom. He does not extinguish desire, he feeds it in measured doses, enough to keep others moving, never enough to let them rest. In the modern world, entire industries are built on this principle. The technology you use, the entertainment you consume, they are not designed to satisfy you, but to keep you wanting. They have mastered the rhythm of reward and delay, the ancient pattern that governs obedience. It is the same art once used by kings to rule peasants. Give little, promise much, control the pace of desire. Do you see the pattern? Desire makes men hurry. Haste makes them reveal themselves. And revelation, that is where power is taken. A man in desire cannot hide his nature. He will betray his fears, his weaknesses, his ambitions. He will show you what leash fits best around his neck. All you must do is let him believe he is chasing freedom. The strategist turns others into instruments of his design, not by force, but by suggestion. He does not command directly. He makes others volunteer to serve his purpose. He controls the tempo of their wants, speeding them when he needs chaos, slowing them when he needs peace. The art of power is not to dominate bodies, but to orchestrate appetites. There is no greater control than this. To make a man believe his desires are his own, when in truth, you planted them there. You give him the illusion of choice while directing every step he takes. He moves by passion, you by patience. And patience always wins. Remember, the powerful do not chase. They stand still and make others circle around them. Their silence becomes magnetic. Their restraint becomes irresistible. Because in a world enslaved by urgency, the one who can wait appears divine. You can rule anyone who cannot rule their own desire. And once you learn to set the pace of another's hunger, you become the invisible hand that guides their destiny. Now ask yourself, what happens when time itself becomes your servant? That is where true mastery begins. Impatience has destroyed more empires than war ever has. Men fall not because they lack power, but because they cannot wait to use it. Every fool wants immediate victory. Every weak man confuses speed with strength, but the strategist knows that time itself is the sharpest blade, one that cuts deepest when wielded with restraint. You see, time is the great equalizer. It grants advantage to the patient and ruins those who rush. To command time is to command outcomes. To lose patience is to surrender the throne. Ask yourself, how many times have you acted too soon? How often have you spoken before listening, spent before planning, attacked before observing? Each moment of haste reveals fear, and fear is the scent predators follow. The powerful do not hurry. They understand that every delay creates tension, and tension creates power. He who waits controls the moment when others break. Look back at history. The Roman general Fabius Maximus was mocked for refusing to engage Hannibal in open battle. He shadowed the Carthaginian army, striking only when advantage was certain. His soldiers hated him for his patience. They wanted blood. But Fabius was not fighting for glory, he was fighting for survival. He let time erode his enemies' confidence, supplies, and morale. When the moment came, Hannibal was no longer invincible, and Rome endured. That is the discipline of delay. It is not passivity. It is power disguised as stillness. In politics, this art is even more lethal. The wise ruler never rushes to reward or punish. He lets time ripen the consequences until they serve as lessons to all. His silence unnerves, his delay terrifies. Because when men cannot predict your timing, they lose control over their own. In the modern world, this law remains untouched. The corporations that dominate you do so not by speed, but by patience. They do not seek a single sale. They cultivate dependency over years. They understand that real power compounds. A moment of restraint today builds decades of control tomorrow. The ordinary man are taught the opposite. You are trained to crave instant results. You refresh, you scroll, you demand now. The system exploits this weakness. It feeds you the illusion of progress to keep you restless and broke. It knows that a man who cannot wait can always be controlled. Delay, in the right hands, becomes psychological warfare. When you withhold a response, you force others to reveal themselves. When you stay silent, they fill the void with confession. When you wait, they panic. Impatience exposes their intentions, while your restraint hides yours. The key lies in mastering your internal tempo. The impatient mind seeks relief. The disciplined mind seeks dominance. Time bends to the latter. Consider the spider. It builds its web and waits, motionless, invisible. The prey arrives, thinking the web abandoned. And then, when timing favors precision, the spider strikes, once flawlessly. This is not instinct, it is timing as art. Most men live like flies, trapped in another's web of urgency. They cannot stand still, their movement betrays them. They spend before earning, speak before thinking, react before seeing. And so, they become food for those who wait. To turn time into a weapon, you must first strip it of emotion. Patience is not passive endurance. It is cold observation. It is learning to see beyond the hour, the day, even the year. It is the understanding that slow victories last longest. Because what is built slowly can be defended easily. Even fortune bows to those who wait wisely. The impatient beg for opportunity, the patient engineer it. Time, to them, is not a river to be crossed. It is a tide to be commanded. In psychological terms, patience manipulates perception. The longer you delay, the more others value your reaction. The longer you remain silent, the more they fear your response. The longer you wait, the more leverage you create. But this discipline demands something few possess: the courage to appear inactive, the courage to let others move first, the courage to let the storm pass while you remain calm within it. The impatient call this weakness. The powerful call it control. Every empire, every dynasty, every enduring legacy has been forged not by speed, but by timing. The impatient spark fires, the patient forge steel. The impatient fight battles, the patient win wars. The impatient seek money, the patient build power. So learn to make time your servant. Do not chase it, bend it. Do not waste it, weaponize it. The seconds that others squander in haste will become the foundation of your dominion. Remember this: he who can wait rules those who cannot. And in a world addicted to movement, stillness becomes your greatest strategy. But there is one final law, darker and deeper than patience: the art of shaping destiny itself. For those who master time eventually learn to master fate. Power is never taken by force alone. It is taken through influence disguised as freedom. When you control what others desire, when you guide their pace, when you make them believe their choices are their own, you no longer need chains. You own their minds. This is the silent mastery of power: to rule without command, to lead without presence, to manipulate without trace. Most men will never see it. They are too busy reacting, chasing, obeying. But you, if you've watched this far, you are learning to move differently. To think like the unseen hand behind the throne. Ask yourself, would you rather be admired or obeyed? Would you rather be visible or untouchable? The choice is yours. But choose with calculation, not emotion. Now, share your thoughts below. Subscribe for more lessons in Machiavellian psychology and the dark strategies of power. And if you know someone who plays the game blind, share this video. Let them learn who truly moves the pieces.